I think that's the biggest thing that I'm so excited to share is like just knowing that we all have like the power to really be us, to like awaken and to set the tone for our life. Like we're not victims.
Right.
And that's really hard for some people to hear, and I've been in spaces where where that was very hard for me to hear, but I'm at a place in my life where it's like I'm not a victim to anything. You know, I'm in situations, but it's just a situation that's going to be gone in a little bit, like I'm going to move on to something else. And you know, because we all I mean I have being I've been in situations where I thought my life was supposed to be a certain way, or I wanted it to be a certain way. But it is what it is.
Right.
And it's how I'm in it. You know, and how I want to keep shaping it and shifting it. And you do that by understanding your power.
So you grew up born and raised in Oakland?
Yeah, I was born in Oakland. I've lived in Oakland and some other places in the Bay, and also.
But Oakland's home.
Around. Yeah, Oakland is definitely like the hometown. Like it resonates so beautifully.
There's a lot of vegan food there.
I know.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
nowadays, there is a lot of vegan food there.
Because I grew up here in the South Bay, but like, and I'm vegan, so but like all the vegan stuff is like Oakland, Berkeley. You know what I mean? South Bay is starting to come up. You know what I mean? But most of it's there. But so is your mom Afghan as well?
No, my mom's mixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was like.
But I'm mostly Venutian.
Venetian.
From Venus.
Oh, okay.
Oh, from Venus. I'm like, wait, Venetian?
I'm all, what part of Italy is
what
that?
country?
I'm all Venice. They call themselves Venusians, right? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I feel like, you know, nowadays I think we're actually coming out of the age, but we'll see. Everyone's really into claiming your identity and like your race and ethnicity, which is beautiful because we haven't been able to do that on like a large scale. And it's really amazing to do that now, and you can see it right in all the media and like movies and things like that, right? But I'm also so much more of a person where I get like ideas and visions, like not only from like honoring my ancestry, but being open to like where am I from? You know, like where has my soul gone? Where has my spirit gone? Like what's my purpose, and how is it impacted by these multiple layers of being that I'm over time remembering, you know, getting glimpses of. So yeah, I like thinking more about cosmic heritage. So I love when people know where they're from.
Like,
or want to know.
Take me out of space. Take me out of this world, Ruby.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So well, I can relate to you on a couple things. So my father's from Mexico, my mom is from here, so I appreciated that because I got like the culture of a different country, you know, like you know, kind of a third world-ish country, and then I also got the culture of American, and so it's a good blend, you know, so you're not just all one. But me, like you, I don't like to label myself like, I mean, I'm Mexican, I'm very proud to be Mexican American, you know, Mexican American, but I don't like to label myself as anything because I think, like you said, it limits you in a way, you know, like I can be a chameleon and I can blend into every group of person, or at least I try. That's what I pride myself in. Is like, you know, I just joke around. I'm white sometimes, I'm black sometimes, I'm Asian sometimes, you know. It's just I'm a chameleon. I like to adapt. So we're all the human race, you know what I mean? And so I just wanted to share that because I agree with you on those points. It's not good to it is good that people can now claim their heritage and if they're proud of it, right? But it also is not necessary as well, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like not necessary. I think it's really like I love being able to identify with different parts of myself at different times for sure. Like, but I also really enjoy being at a place that is accepting more of who I am. Yeah, you know, like I've gone through my phases of really taking on different identities and being very like public about them, and now I'm at this place where I just feel more connected to the stars. I feel more connected to like knowing my energy, which is like not just like of this vessel, you know. It's like I can shift my energy based off of whatever I'm thinking about or what I want, you know. So it's more like, I think it's more about energy and knowing my purpose, or knowing how I want to impact the world and how I want to be impacted energetically, I guess, for me right now, and versus just like claiming to be Afghan or mixed heritage. And I also think about like how Afghanistan is so beautiful. It's like, you know, Afghanistan is on the Silk Road and like it has a history of Buddhism, of like Zoroastrianism, you know, of like Islam. It has a history of so many peoples going through there. It's like, who am I when I even claim Afghan as a race?
Right.
Like what, you know, like what what ancestry, like what time do I want to claim, you know? And I think it's like that for a lot of places in the world.
Right.
You know, and I'm just can speak about Afghanistan. But it's like so interesting for me to just to think about that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
When
you talked about the remembering, right? Because when I had this very this spiritual experience when I did ayahuasca, it definitely helped me remember like who I truly am, like you know, being love and light, and also like I never felt so connected with my own spirit. And then lately I realized, yes, I was born into the Filipino culture and my parents are, you know, my family's Filipino and all that. But beyond that, I'm like spirit, right? Like an energy and a spirit.
Yeah.
So it just, the remembering definitely hits the spot for me. Because I'm like, now as time goes by, I'm definitely, it helps. There's things that I do that helps me remember because I think as a human race, we forgot who we are, you know?
Yeah, disconnected.
You got me thinking about traditions and how beautiful they are, and like and the traditions in different diasporas, and how I really enjoy like knowing about the traditions in my diasporas and seeing how finding like the goodness in them, you know, the ones that are like rooted in like authenticity and like love and like connection to the earth, you know, and well-being and community. And something you said like made me think of like traditions, and like, and I started thinking about like the tradition of like music within America, how it was you know, impacted and created from like the slaves and from like Native Americans, and like that whole dance, and then like with racism and like how there was this power to like control the sound, and just like where we are now with like what we hear, how it does come from a tradition of like slavery, you know, of Black people and like Native American people, indigenous peoples. And then also there's this thing that's so much being able to dance in the other realm too, of like knowing that and being in that tradition and honoring it and loving and respecting it. And then also dancing in the tradition of like the new tradition for me, which is like, ooh, there's so much more. There's so much endless possibility. I can be in that story and honor it for a moment, but I don't have to live my life just within that story. Yeah. You know, I can like look at it and be like, that's so amazing. Our ancestors did that. And now I'm doing this, which is whatever. What is what I'm doing now? Like being expansive with like energy.
Expansive. That's the word.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about Afghanistan? Because you mentioned the Silk Road, and for those who don't know what the Silk Road is, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the Silk Road was a road like throughout Asia that traders went on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually remember the exact locations, but it was like a route that traders would take.
Okay.
So there was constant goods and ideas being passed on this road through all the countries that it went through.
So all the cultures, is a melting pot of all the cultures getting together to trade, basically, and it runs through Afghanistan. Wow. And I like the outfit that you have on. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've been really into something got activated in me where I started exploring Buddhism more. And Buddhism within my diaspora.
Shout out to Buddha right there.
Love you, Buddha. And then thinking about being part Asian, and also too just falling in love with Bruce Lee.
Okay. Bruce Lee was badass. Yeah.
And
his mindset.
His mindset, and falling in love with how incredible it is that Buddhism and Eastern thought has been in American music and entertainment. And I really love how that was like a spirituality that got intertwined with something that could be mainstream and reach a lot of people. So that really inspired me too. So yeah, this outfit I've been really enjoying, like looking at Asian things that are not just Afghanistan, but thinking about the China within Afghanistan, the Mongols within Afghanistan, and like they're, if only in my mind, I'm like, ooh, what would it look like to have like Afghan, dress meet Chinese, meet, Mongolian back in the day. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I know it exists, but it's like, so it's fun to be able to express myself in more in different types of Asian wear.
So what type of Asian wear is this?
This was made in China.
Oh, China. Okay. Are you part Chinese? Or?
No. I mean, the Chinese came through Afghanistan, but no, I
like, you're like, I mean,
I don't know.
Energetically?
No. I do not know, but I know that I'm Afghan. My dad's from Kabul. So.
Okay. So that's the Asian
I didn't grow up.
part
Yeah, I didn't grow up
meant,
with Chinese culture.
Yeah, because I mean, I know Mongolians too. Like I used to work with a lot of them. I have a good friend who's Mongolian. So, and they're very unique looking, like, so Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan, they say something crazy like 1 out of every 8 men that live on the world today are a direct descendant of Genghis Khan or something like that. Because that's how far the Mongolian Empire, he had like 2,000 children or something crazy like that.
What?
Yeah. It's true. Look it up, right?
He's been mentioned
in
in music a lot. He's been mentioned in music. Yeah, like rap music or any other. I think I've heard it in a rap song. I was like, who's this guy?
He was one of like the greatest
like emperor or something?
emperors, dictators of all time. But he was pretty smart because what he did when he would take over, he was more democratic. He wouldn't be like, you have to do what we say. He said, you can have your own religion, you can have your own people, but you're under the Mongol Empire. And so that's kind of how he took over pretty fast, right?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with him, but I did read something like that too. I did come across that. And I thought what was interesting in that piece that I read, it also talked about how he was looking for the elixir of life. So he was someone who conquered, and with conquering people comes a lot of ugly stuff.
Right, of course.
But for him, I don't know what part of his life this came in, but there was in this article, it was talking about how he also sought out the sages of different religions to talk to them about the elixir of life, alchemy, living, like being a living legacy, living legend for a long time. But so it's kind of interesting because we're talking about him now. So, people's legacies
he's
like
still
do
to this day.
Right?
Yeah,
how old is he?
It's funny, like, and we'll switch gears because this is not about Genghis Khan, but he didn't die in battle. He died from falling off his horse and injuring himself.
I mean, do any
that's crazy
colonizers or conquerors die in battle?
Because they're not in the battle.
Know, right?
They're back
I'm
home chilling.
They usually send everyone else to fight.
Right. Interesting.
But anyways, so I don't know. I just thought that was cool because. But if you think about it, like I've done a DNA test. I don't know if you've done that one. Like I did a Ancestry.com. Is it Ancestry? Yeah, Ancestry.
Yeah.
And if you look at my DNA, it's like I'm a melting pot of everything. I'm like 45% European, 48% Native American, 5% African. But then they show, like, it almost shows like where my ancestors started and how they walked all the way. And then obviously because my father's Mexican from here, my mom, she looks light skinned. So it's just, I think your DNA tells even the story of like how you're saying, the past and where you went through and all these different cultures. And maybe we're all kind of somewhat of a Silk Road of DNA.
And cosmic DNA too.
Yeah, cosmic DNA too, right? I mean, I've had an out-of-body experience. It wasn't in the ayahuasca. I did the ayahuasca as well. But I had an out-of-body experience at church, and where I popped out of my body, and and then I had inner peace for 5 years after that, and it was crazy. And I was just praying, and it happened. So I do understand that
inner peace for 5 years after that. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Beautiful.
But that's where I learned that we are spiritual beings, just having a human experience. Because I'm literally floating around the room and I could see myself. And I went from pride and ego to gratitude. It was like an emptying of ego. Like I was drained. They call it slain in the spirit in the church again. And so it's like you empty yourself of you and you fill yourself with God or source or whatever, right? But so seriously, for after that, 5 years of inner peace, my whole life was like easy and perfect after that for 5 years. But obviously I didn't keep it up. I stopped doing that. But my point to that is, you're talking about cosmic, talking about, all that. I knew, like, I have no doubt, like, I can't deny it. Something happened. I was floating out of my body and I popped back in, but so I know that we are spiritual beings, at least me, that my experience, I know that it's true. Right. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's so interesting. You just got me thinking about how like ancestry.com like has become a business.
Yeah.
Like how those people wanting to know their ancestry. It just reminds me of like how like, it just makes me think about how fascinated or how much we're attached to knowing like our percentage of who we are. Like I remember growing up and hearing the story of like, are you Afghan enough? Like not being Afghan enough. I'm sure we probably got that maybe mixed around Mexican,
Because I looked white as a kid, so they're like, you're not Mexican, you're white. I'm like, what am I supposed to look like?
But it's so interesting because it's like in America, I have a very different experience of like being brown in America than I did when I went to go travel in Europe. But just hearing you talk got me thinking about a lot of things, and one of them being that, and another one just being like how beautiful it is when there are communities of people that are still, like there were a time when we were tribal, and we still connected with people, but it was like we're very insular in communities, and our communities are so big because of capitalism and the internet, and like like you can identify with people from all over. We're all not just like in one located space having the same traditions and understanding of how the world works or cosmology, and how it's so sad when that like that was disrupted with genocides against indigenous peoples, and it's also I think, and I could be wrong, but you just got me thinking how I think a lot of people have become fascinated, because I've heard this growing up, of just wanting to be so pure, like wanting to be authentically Afghan or wanting to be authentically something, like but it's so divisive. Like it divides us. It's not who we actually are as a species,
right?
Like this is just a vessel. And so you just got me thinking about that, and it makes me think of the song, another mantra that I wrote that I want to share because it's about roots.
Go ahead. Let's do it.
My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry me far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry us far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry us far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry us far.
Yeah.
Wow. That was such a blessing.
And like when I sing that song, like my third eye vibrates, and it's so much about like when I'm saying roots, it's about like the root of love, of generosity, of kindness, of being able to be in a space where I'm not manipulated by others because I know who I am and how I want to be in relationship to other people. And I feel like that's so much of like what my mother taught me before she passed away. And it's beautiful. I love singing that song because it resonates with people in different ways depending on what ceremony I'm at or what location I'm in, and also where people are at in their lives.
Right.
Like I wrote it for my mom, but other people interpret it as like divine mother energy, or like Mama Aya, so
it's pure love. That's how I can relate with it. It's like pure love. And a mother's love. It's pure love.
Like, and it's like the cosmic earth. Like the earth is like our mother. Like she provides for us. We get our food and water from her. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be alive. So for when I'm thinking about roots, it's definitely, it comes from a place of like my roots of being in a time where I could travel and meet different beings, different goddesses, different, where we shared DNA codes and like we activated each other, and like we had, you know, we could have telepathy,
Yeah.
you know, and because that stuff's real. Like you can hang out with someone for a while and you like, you know what each other's thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
it happens.
Your
Yeah.
vibe attracts
You
your
know?
tribe, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And it's interesting to think, like, to also think about your vibe attracts your tribe, and you know, and then once you're like in those spaces, like you still have to do the clearing, you still have to continually check in because of everything we've talked about, the world that we live in,
Right.
to make sure you're on that vibration.
Yeah. You mentioned something. You said when you traveled outside of the U.S.,
Mhm.
you felt so. Is that because Americans have accents and Americans have a culture. And I didn't realize that until the first time I traveled outside of the U.S., right?
Mhm.
Because I'm very unique looking. So when I travel to Europe, people are like, what are you? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But then I open my mouth and they're like, oh, you're American. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what the heck? But because I never thought of that. We have an accent, you know,
Yeah.
because we think, oh, you have the
Mm.
accent. You know,
Yeah.
no. We have an accent
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you can go anywhere in the world outside the United States and start speaking like an American and everybody will know, oh,
Yeah.
American. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So is
Yeah.
that what you were talking about, or was it something different?
When I found myself in spaces, like I went to for the first time last year, or 2019. Did
I
last
know,
year exist?
like it's almost like 2020 is just like
Yeah.
a blip.
Yeah. In 2019, I went for the first time, and I went to Berlin and Stockholm and Paris.
Stockholm's beautiful.
I love Stockholm.
Yeah, my ex-wife is from there, so I know.
Yeah, the vibe in Stockholm is so amazing.
Super cool. Yeah.
But going to being in those spaces, like being in Stockholm as a woman of color, I never had anyone ask me like where I was from. Yeah, or like like heritage wise.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about ideas.
Yeah.
You know, we were just very present with each other in the moment. And if things casually came up around like culture or like race, then we talk, but it never really did come up because we were just so much like playing and like in this love vibration. And I remember that I was like, because I went to Stockholm first. I played my first show in Stockholm in Europe.
That's awesome.
And it was like, wow, it just felt so like I could feel the energy was like expansive. And I was only there for like, I was there for like a week. So I'm sure things would change. And I know there's a lot of things around Afghans being refugees there. But my first initial experience as being a woman of color was very different from even being in the Bay.
Yeah.
You know, which is very centered on identity and like people's liberation and like talking about these systems of oppression for empowerment. Right. But it was like, oh my God, I felt like I was on like a sabbatical. Like I was just on a break. I could just like live. And I kind of had that experience throughout Europe, except for when I got to Paris, there was this thing around Americans, but it wasn't
the French.
it wasn't ever like coming at me from like a race or how I looked.
Yeah.
It was more about like how my cultural customs, like how I acted,
Right.
you know, or like, you know, stereotypes around Americans.
It's funny because the French are like Americans. Because like, no, because if you think about
I'm just laughing and just see the French are now being like.
Because if you go to France, they expect you to speak French. They expect you to adapt to their culture.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're not going to adapt to you. Just like here. Like, you know, if someone came here and they weren't speaking English and they were trying to act like their culture, we'd be like, dude, you're in America. Like, you know, whatever. So it's funny. That's
interesting.
We diss the French, but they're just like us, you know, because they're like proud of their culture. They're not going to change. They're not going to speak the other language, right? But I want to talk about
I actually really love the French, though.
Yeah, so I want to talk about what you were mentioning about when you were in Europe and you didn't even have to worry about, you know, labeling yourself as whatever. Because it's funny. Because let's say you grew up in you were born and raised in Sweden, they would consider you Swedish, right? You're born and raised in Britain, in England, you're British. The only country that labels you by your race is America. So I'm Mexican, really? American, Afghan, American, Filipino, American. In England, I would just be British.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I have a good friend of mine.
Which is also problematic in its own way,
too. Yeah. So I have a friend of mine. Maybe it's because we were just a country that was built on a melting pot of people, like just everybody coming in. And I don't know what it is, but... so I have a friend, he's Indian Punjabi, but he was born and raised in England, right? So he talks British, he associates like British, people call him British, you know, but he's of Indian Punjabi descent, you know what I mean? but this is the only country where they actually label you by
that's
by
kind
your
of
race,
interesting.
which is pretty. I don't know why, but that's
yeah. I don't know why
yeah.
either. It's too. I'm excited that I'm around people where we are not constantly trying, we just do treat each other well, and we do uplift one another, and we do validate each other's experiences, and we come from it with like kindness. And I really am looking forward to seeing like large communities, even like the world, like be able to operate from that like heart-centered space again, where we're not, trying to be American or British, but just being kind to each other.
For sure.
Yeah, I think maybe Gen Z and above will probably start doing that, because we had a Gen Zer on the podcast as Joe's
my
niece,
cousin. She's like Mexican
yeah.
and Filipino. Yeah.
But just talking to her, I was like, wow, like they have such a different perspective on life. Like they're non-judgmental on race or sex or sexual orientation, or it's more like culture and vibe, and like
it is about
yeah,
the vibe.
yeah. And so like that's the future. Most of the people that created this system, institutions that we're in, are like boomers, maybe X. They'll be dead like in 20 years. Most of them 20-40 years, they'll all be gone. Then you have a whole new generation of the Zers, and then the people coming up that are like in the future, it's going to be like everyone's like non-binary, and they all look different because we're all so mixed up, and it's all super technology. And I mean, I don't know. I think like you all said, we're entering a new age, and all the stuff we see now, we're in it. And all the stuff we see now eventually is going to fall off. Like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But I believe maybe in 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to be a completely different system, completely different way of like the way we label ourselves. And
and I hope so, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the old system's already falling apart. So the old paradigm is what they say, right?
Yeah.
So.
And I think, that's what's so amazing about being a musician and being with artists is like we really do create the culture, and we set the vibrations. And we create ripple effects with my music, with the visuals, with the objects that we make. Those are the things that help us shift quicker, or just be the shift, is that we're actively creating new things, because, everyone, we often talk about the future, but it's like the future is already here.
Right.
Like, like the life that I live is very different than some people.
Right.
But and they might say that the way my thoughts are like, oh, that's too out there. That's,
Yeah.
But, so it just really depends, I guess, what you decide to tap into. And I think that's the biggest thing that I'm so excited to share, is like just knowing that we all have like the power to really be us, to like awaken and to set the tone for our life. Like we're not victims.
Right.
And that's really hard for some people to hear, and I've been in spaces where where that was very hard for me to hear. But I'm at a place in my life where it's like I'm not a victim to anything. I'm in situations, but it's just a situation that's going to be gone in a little bit. Like I'm going to move on to something else. And because we all, I mean, I have being I've been in situations where I thought my life was supposed to be a certain way. I wanted it to be a certain way, but it is what it is.
Right.
And it's how I'm in it, and how I want to keep shaping it and shifting it. And you do that by understanding your power, your love light, your source energy, that like we are fractals of gods and goddesses, we have higher consciousness right at our fingertips, just by asking for guidance. By being really clear on like what sort of guidance we want, who we're getting it from, knowing that there are tons of tricksters and that are going to try and pull you, because it's like you can keep walking, you can get back to your like organic timeline and like walk in this space of like feeling really good about yourself, and knowing what you're doing, and then you could get upset by someone, which happens, and then you veer off. But then do you keep veering? Do you keep going? or do you come back to like your love and your heart center, and knowing that you're shifting the planet and raising the vibration of the planet by walking that walk of being in your knowing. So yeah, I think it's just so exciting to be able to have these sorts of conversations with more people and more artists.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful to create work amongst folks that do that.
Yeah.
It's exciting to be here right now. You know, I think we have, this is all energy, you know what I mean? And the fact that we get to share this with the rest of the world and putting more energy out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think this spreads beyond the creative community? This like operating from the source and the love? Because we're talking a lot about creatives and artists. And I think by nature, creatives and artists already are geared or connected somehow. Do you think it spreads to other communities like business?
Oh yeah,
like sports, like other industries as well.
Yeah, I do. I think for me, I talk mostly about creatives because I'm an artist, musician, and like my purpose is to like share love and light and like awaken and activate people and create culture with other people. But yes, like we all have the potential to understand that we are love and light, like we are source energy, and can decide what to do with that. Because being a business person is being creative,
right?
Like, you know, it is very like logistical in a lot of ways and structured, but
problem
like
solving.
Problem solving. Being, if you're like a chef, that's creative. You know, we're all, as our species, like we create things on a day to day, whether it's our bed,
right?
or
our food,
breakfast, or whether it's a painting, and being able to do it with intention or do it with knowing that whatever you do is actively impacting the space around you. And impacting the other dimensions in your like your other selves. Like if you can get to that place, I think people would be excited to want to make better decisions, you know, for themselves, for their health,
right?
You know, instead of, because this is for me, like I don't have to listen to anyone else on how to take care of my body,
right?
Or how to care for myself, or how to have like great spiritual hygiene, you know. It's like or how to create. I don't need that, but I can choose to take classes and like seek advice, but then have really good discernment on whether it resonates with my heart.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because there can be this amazing doctor who's healed tons of people or had really great brilliant surgeon or something, you know, who did great surgery. And I could trust that. But then when I talk to him, if it's not resonating, or her, if it doesn't resonate with like my heart, it's like, I'm not going to get surgery from you because my heart's telling me no, even though you've had, you know, because like who knows what would have happened who would happen if I decided to get surgery just based off of your track record. It just comes down to discernment, because people can be brilliant and have really large followings, and they can also still be manipulative without even knowing it,
right?
Because they're infringed by energy or business deals or whatever it is. We don't know what it is, you know. So just like having your heart space, your sovereignty, your joy, knowing what speaks to you.
Your intuition, like that's there for a reason, like and you should listen to it. The thing is, I don't know if most people do or not. Like maybe they do and they ignore it. And they're like, oh, I know I should have listened to my intuition, right? Yeah, that's great. So where's the music headed? Like what do you see the future? Like what are you excited about? You got projects in the works?
Yes. Well, I'm so excited for my event at the end of the month, FemaFest, a full moon in Virgo, where I'll be releasing my new music video called Seeker. And then I'll be releasing new music in May and an album later this year. But it's been the journey of like connecting with high vibe artists and like people who are fractals of goddesses like Joe. It's so amazing, you know. So I just see from this, since we're talking about right now, from this point on, just continuing to be in opportunities, you know, to create more visuals, to create live stream broadcasts for people, concerts once that opens up again.
Once the concerts, that's probably the industry hit the most, is large group gathering industries, right? But I think they'll figure it out pretty soon, and it seems like it's in the end, once this goes away, it's going to almost be like it never happened, because everyone's going to come out in full force. So that'll be exciting, right?
I think, yeah, I have this feeling it's going to be like it'll be another renaissance, because all of us have been working on ourselves, working on our crafts.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
when we can be with each other, we're really going to celebrate one another.
Yeah, we started this during the pandemic.
So amazing.
This is the second year. Yeah.
You can already see it. They just opened up restaurants, and like literally
people are happy.
The restaurants are like packed, like crazy busy, packed. Like it's like really difficult just to get in there. You know what I mean? And that's just opening restaurants. Like, imagine when concerts and big venues, it's gonna be insane.
It's gonna be so beautiful, because like music, sounds, it's a vibration, it impacts us so much. Even on so many levels, you're like shopping and they play music for a reason, certain types of music to keep you in there. They have certain sorts of music on ads for a reason. So like music can be used to manipulate, but it can also be used to just for pleasure and to shift your vibration and to activate parts of yourself, get inspired. So yeah, once things open back up and we can be with one another, I can already feel that I'm going to be heavily lifted from all the concerts that I'll be going to and also performing.
So that was awesome. But we always close it out with a little section we call Joe's 6 questions. So Joe's actually going to get really, really deep with you right now and ask you some powerful questions. So
I mean, who knows how deep it is, but we'll see.
I'm feeling called to sing the Mama song one more time.
Okay.
Close out
Let's do it.
My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry me far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry me far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry us far. My mama taught me not to forget where I come from. The magic in our roots, it will carry us far.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's a perfect segue right to those questions.
Right.
Because mama taught you, right?
Are you gonna release that song on your new album or something? Because I want to listen to it. Like,
I will release it. Thank you. At some point.
Please, have it on Spotify. I can have it on repeat.
Oh wow, that's not even released yet?
No.
Wow, you heard it here first on the Bliss Seekers podcast.
I guess my first question is, what makes you feel grounded?
Ooh, so many things. I was just at the Russian River, and I think what grounded me the most was laying in the dirt.
I miss the dirt.
Like, it was it was beautiful. I drew a medicine wheel, and I just like laid in the dirt, and I could just feel the earth like holding me, and it grounded me like real quick. So that's like my favorite way to really ground quickly, or to feel it quickly, is to just sit on the earth or lay in the dirt.
So literally the ground
grounds
you.
Yeah, literally.
The
earth vibes.
Yeah. If you guys can also answer that question. What makes you feel grounded? I mean, if laying on the dirt makes you feel grounded, do that. Because I know it makes me feel grounded. Yeah, it makes me feel good doing that too. Okay. So what are the 2 things that you would do to raise your own vibration?
Sing. Doing some sort of like toning, like long tones, or playing with a singing bowl. Meditating, and then like actually visioning a time that felt really good will instantly like raise my vibration and gratitude.
Visualization is powerful.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So let's see. What advice would you give to someone who is like basically suffering, not physically suffering, but like maybe like emotionally, kind of like in a victim mentality or something like that?
And they were asking for advice?
Yeah. What advice would you give someone? To liberate themselves, you know?
That's interesting. I don't think it'd be advice. I think it'd be more of an experience of just like loving them like telling them that they were perfect just the way they are. There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
You know, and just to like activate that other side of them that like, yeah, everything is cool. If they could get to that place of like, or wanting to remind them of the cosmic flow, that we really are just like, it's a big river, and we can just be a leaf like floating in it, you know, and surrender. Like,
I actually
just
pictured that in my head.
yeah, just like
we
floating
do,
down the river as a leaf, you know, and then you might get caught on something. You have to push yourself away and just like float on.
That's a good description. A good
analogy. Yeah, for sure.
So if you get caught on something, guys, go ahead and just push yourself off like a leaf and keep floating on.
Yeah, don't consent. Just keep floating on.
Yeah. So you talk about you mentioned sovereignty a lot. It's something that I'm just starting to learn about. Like, it's, you know, basically owning your own power, right? So for anyone out there who basically doesn't feel like they have any powerless, like, how do you, like, what would you tell someone like who's, you know, like, is very insecure, who felt like they're very powerless? Like, what would you tell them?
Interesting.
To tap into their sovereignty.
I think I would ask them first, why do they feel powerless? Yeah, just to kind of get an idea of like what's going on. Like, why do they feel powerless? Because everyone will feel powerless because there has been some form that they've been dominated in, right? So yeah, I think like discovering that, like, where have you been dominated, and to the point where it's made you feel bad to make you feel like you are powerless. And then to sift through that and rediscover your power, like your love. I think it's like, that's an interesting question, and it's challenging, because for me, I'm like, I just want to be like, you're powerful, hey, you know, just like poke them. But yeah, it has to come from within, and it's a belief. It's a belief. So, and yeah, I think I would ask people to look at ways that they've been dominated, and whether that's something they want to continue to be dominated by. Because you can stop anything at any moment, and it's just the process of like really shifting into your own new paradigm, your own new idea is really up to how much time you take to really do the work. But it could be real quick, or it could not be. Like, you don't know until you try. You could just wake up and decide like, oh yeah, actually I'm committed to my highest self. And then you just are, you know, and then, or you're like, who is my highest self? Like, it might be a longer journey, but we really are powerful. I mean, we wake up every day. That's power. You're just waking up. Like, what? Your heart is beating, like, on a very basic level. Like, our heart is beating, our mind is working, you know, we're breathing. Like, that's power coming from someplace within you, or wherever else you want to think, but it's like in you.
Yeah.
I like what you mentioned.
Amazing answers.
What form were you dominated in? I've never heard that before, but it's true. I think why someone would feel powerless or insecure about something is because somehow growing up, they were dominated by some person or some group in that area, and it made them feel powerless. It's called arrested development, basically. So they're stuck until they can, like you said, reflect, somehow get out of that and move on, because they're not that person that was powerless at the time anymore. They're a different person now, and it's a different time. So that was powerful. I really liked that.
Yeah, it was very powerful.
I really liked that. I wrote it down. Cool. I took notes. Yeah.
You'd make me think about too, like when you look at people who are leaders, or like in text, like textbook leaders, they come from this place of just believing in themselves, like just knowing, you know. It's like
the knowing, right?
Even if we disagree with like the things that they've done or who they are as people, it's like they believed that hard in themselves, so they don't listen to anyone else. So it's like, don't listen to anyone, you know. We hear that all the time, don't listen to anyone else, but it's like really find a way to shield yourself energetically, so that when someone does tell you something, you can discern that that's not you. You don't need to take on that idea.
100%.
I just want to mention something. I saw Desi spoke about, like, you know, at some point, affirmations are great, right? But at some point, you won't need to keep repeating them because it's part of your DNA already.
Yeah.
I was like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I feel like that's sovereignty as well, right?
Yeah,
it's
it
part of your
is.
DNA. Like,
Yeah.
like wow.
Your subconscious is reprogrammed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
So
Then
I
you
just
just
wanna,
add new ones.
yeah,
You
yeah.
just keep adding new ones. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
I'm
love
big on
that.
affirmations.
Power. Okay. So if you had 48 hours left to live in your physical form now, what is the first thing and the last thing you would do? Physical form.
Wow. Well, right now, if I had 48 hours to live, the first thing that popped in my mind was that I really want to go to Bamyan in Afghanistan. That's where like the largest Buddhas in the world were built.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I would want to have a safe passage and have a safe space to just be on the land there. And it'd be so beautiful to be there with my dad too.
Yeah.
So be there with my dad and be able to explore the caves and just be on the land for the last 48 hours.
Yeah. I was watching a show, a traveler guy, YouTuber, and he went to the outskirts of Afghanistan where he was talking about that, where there was Buddhism, but they try to destroy like the biggest Buddha. He went there,
So
and he said it had been tried to be destroyed for many years because they don't want people to know that Buddha was big in Afghanistan. You know, the current whatever powers that be, or whatever. So I know what you're talking about. Actually, I just remembered it's pretty powerful. And outside, it's very safe. That area, people are like very just normal. They speak English, I think, sometimes. And so I just remember, I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Drew Binsky or somebody else, but a very famous traveling YouTuber went to that part of Afghanistan, and he went to the big Buddha and stuff.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So
I want to go there.
That the Buddhas, he found Buddhas underground that were around the same size but laying down.
oh wow.
Yeah.
So they're standing up and laying down.
Yes. But I would love to go to feel the land, like because in front of the Buddhas it was like they had this whole, I don't know what it's called, but it was like ancient farming. Like, the way that they had it designed was that the water would flow.
Aqueducts.
And somehow like the way they set it up. So, just to know that there was like, they were providing for their community with the food in front of these giant Buddhas in the mountain. Like that vibration of that earth must be amazing.
Can't wait to take photos.
It's happening. We're going.
Take photos and feel the ground, lay in the dirt.
So I'd
Be
want
grounded.
to be able to go to Bamyan with the goddess crew, team of people, and be able to just make magic, soak in the vibes, meditate safely. Yeah.
And what's the last thing you would do?
Wasn't that the question? Isn't the answer?
Oh yeah, it was.
That's
The first thing was with your dad. You go there with your dad. Okay, so that's the whole 48 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would want to spend more time than that. But
first
if
and
I
last
only
thing.
had 48 hours, I would just be there
be
for
there.
2 days.
Just be there.
Just there for 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That'd be a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah.
That's truly connecting to your true self on this earth, going back to there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Beautiful. So the last question is, what's your number one wish for the world?
Aww. For everyone to be sovereign, for everyone to really tune in to feeling good about who they are as a person and be able to share that with other folks around them. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. To not be controlled by anybody or anything, but to really come from a place of love. And sharing that with people. So you can listen to people, but you're never being manipulated or controlled because you know what your heart says.
I like that. That's powerful. Wow. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
It
was
amazing. Yeah.
awesome.
I'm excited for your future music career. I'm excited for things to
you.
open up, and we'll leave everything in the description below. If you guys like this podcast, once again, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that notification bell. All of her information will be down there in the description below. So check that out. Any last words, Joe?
I'm just really grateful that you're here. Like, I feel really connected with you. I just want to say how we met was actually I was in Jack London Square with a friend, and she was going around inviting people to watch her show.
Oh, wow.
And I just felt her energy instantly. And I was like, wow, this person actually came up to me and made that effort. Like, hey, come see my art, basically, right?
Yeah.
So ever since then, we've been friends. And after listening to, you know, her music and just the energy and the person that she is, I was like, okay, this person is meant to be in my life. So, so yeah, I'm really grateful that you're here. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this space. It's beautiful what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can find any of my stuff on any streaming platform, Ruby Mountain. And if you Google search me, Ruby Mountain Music.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this will be the number one podcast in the world, and we will have 250 million subscribers. And our number one purpose is to inspire people to find their true purpose and follow their bliss.
Yes.
So, as always, thank you so much for being here. And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We loved having you here. And as always,
follow your bliss.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Our goal, as always, is to become the number one podcast in the world. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And make sure you share this with 3 of your friends. And if you like our song, our intro song, please check out my good friend Maroney Silva's band, A Dead Desire, on YouTube. That song is called The Mantra. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. And as always, follow your bliss.